Hello and welcome to this beautiful day. This Outnumbered live on your screen, reaching you live and direct from the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, Nigeria. This is another day again that we want to bring you to speed with some happenings around the papers are right before us here. My name is Ramsey Enoch, and of course, Antonia is here, and Michael is also here to join me in the newspaper review once again. Good morning.
Good morning, Ramsey.
Good morning,
Michael.
Sonia. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Ramsey.
Well, the road was somehow busier than yesterday.
Yes,
I think
a lot of people have gotten back to work from the Democracy Day holiday. So
I don't know. Some persons were doing this Democracy Day as if someone is forcing them to do it. Some persons never wanted to celebrate it, but because it's public holiday, everyone just want to take advantage of it. All right, so back to the papers. These are the papers for this morning, beginning from the Punch newspaper, where the top headline says governors demand refund from $10 billion NIPP investment. Details read on page 19. Federal government threatening to punish schools shunning safety guidelines. Page 7 is where you get our details. Federal government threatens to punish schools shunning safety guidelines. Then this one says hashtag end hunger protesters seek end to economic hardship. Details read on page 27. Federal government World Bank begin talks on 90,000 kilometer fiber optic cable project. Well, fiber optic cable project, it's very okay. Federal government World Bank begin talks on 90,000 kilometer fiber optic cable project. Details read on page 19. Then the big story starting from the kicker, which says minimum wage. That's the kicker. Then the story says a federal government warns of mass sacking as labor disowns agreement. Then one writer to that story, unrealistic minimum wage will cause job losses. Minister tells labor. Details read on page 2. Well, the fight, it's not a fight, it's just asking for what is theirs. Well, we'll talk more about that. Sexual harassment, HOS, suspends PAMSEC, others probe. Okay, others probe, yeah? Sexual harassment, HOS, suspends PAMSEC, others probe. Details read on page 42 of the Punch newspaper. And just two more and I will be done. Ondo man nabbed with 8 skulls, human parts. Details read on page 5. So many untold things happening, so many evil happening. Skulls, yeah, human skulls and human parts, you know, in Ondo State. These are things that you don't hear about, okay, in Nigeria. But recently, they are coming to limelight. These things are happening. We don't know whatever that is responsible for that, but this is totally unacceptable. And finally, from the Punch newspaper, motorists groan as Ogunram Market causes gridlock on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. Details read on pages 4 and 5 of the Punch newspaper, and that's going to be the size of the headline this morning from the Punch. Over to you, Michael.
Thank you, Ramsey. We'll move straight to the Vanguard on Thursday today. Above the header news, that news you find it on page 20 from OPEC. Nigeria's crude oil production dropped to 1.25 MPD in May. MBPD in May, sorry. Nigeria's crude oil production dropped to 1.25 MBPD in May. Lukman says APC can no longer win election without rigging. You can get the full story on page 9. Why 1 trillion is needed to fund legacy projects, NDDC says. You can find the story on page 12. Labour rejects Tinubu's claims of minimum wage agreement. You get the full story on page 8. Why I support full local government autonomy, says Governor Abdul Razak. Eagle Square flip, Tinubu not Superman. That is coming from the presidency about a flip that happened yesterday. It's as if he did Balabur flip, but that wasn't a flip. He fell. Yes. Sir, was that a flip?
Well, I think
is it a gymnast for him to flip?
Atiku said, is there something they need to know? And Peter Obi is actually sympathizing, and even Atiku also sympathizing, even though there were some comments coming. You
Yeah,
don't
some
expect
comments underneath.
Nigerians won't keep quiet.
Oh
Yeah,
my
You know,
everyone is. I've even started seeing skits. People making skits.
Yeah.
One
definitely
was
it's gonna come.
animated.
Mhm.
Another was someone acting it. He was at the back of a Hilux. I was like, what is going
They
on?
call that
in
a Humpty
Nigeria?
Dumpty fall. Away from that, on a lighter note, the big story today, the kicker says Democracy Day. Eminent citizens, elder statesmen chat way forward. And we have liners to that story. As protests hit Abuja, Lagos, Oshu, Kaduna, another rider, we need new constitution to halt Nigeria's collapse. That is coming from Anyoko, Nwachukwu, and others. Our democracy has suffered state capture. That's coming from Obi and Sanwo-Olu, Anyide, others. Esto MKO Abiola. Address Nigeria's suffering. That is coming from Khan, CAN. Tells federal government our democracy is in recession, doesn't reflect our cultural experiences. That is coming from Kuka. Gani Adams, okay, Odumaki, others, canvas regionalism. You can get that full gist, of course, that's the big story today on our Vanguard. Just below it, we have a news here. The anthem did not stop the war, and the idea that millions of jobless and oppressed youth will be more committed to the ideas of nationhood simply because of the empty words of an anthem. It's harebrained. That is coming from Olu for sure. When we talk about the new national anthem, you say it doesn't highlight the need for Nigeria to start becoming patriotic and that brotherhood. What does it connote? In brotherhood we stand, instead of the first one that was prayer.
Well, I think Nigerians are still asking questions.
How is it occultic?
Nigerians.
This is too much of movies. Too much movies now. Why is brotherhood looking occultic?
Brotherhood of the cross.
Oh, that's what is that what he's referring to?
Well, but as it is, I think Nigerians are not even looking at that aspect right now because of what is happening.
Yeah.
So this is not what is number one. It's not a priority right now to Nigerians.
And the last story I'll take on the Vanguard, it's a picture news, Democracy Day parade. You see the president waving to Nigerians. Over to you, Antonia.
Thank you, Michael. Let's take a look at the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. Only 5.3 million workers will benefit from new minimum wage. I'll take that headline again. Only 5.3 million workers will benefit from new minimum wage. We have some riders underneath that. Nigeria among worst salary payers in Africa. The next headline says, federal government, states, local governments must not politicize wages. This is coming from Peterside. Moving away from that, reducing cost of living is the way out. This is coming from Dr. Oweleke. And the final rider underneath this headline, no agreement reached with federal government. And this is coming from NLC. The details of that is on pages 4 and 6. Underneath that headline, we have a picture story there. Do well to pick a copy of the Daily Trust newspaper to get the details of the big story and the picture stories and other stories that might interest you from the Daily Trust newspaper. Over to you, Ramsey.
Thank you very much, Antonia. The final paper for this morning is the Daily Times newspaper. And from the Daily Times, I'm beginning from the big story. No agreement with federal government on new minimum wage, says NLC. Two riders to that story. Faults Tinubu's Democracy Day claim, insist on 250,000 naira. Then the second rider says Nigerian workers won't accept any minimum wage figure that approximates to starvation wage. All right, says Nigerian workers won't accept any minimum wage figure that approximates to starvation wage. Tinubu vows to preserve democracy, protect citizens' freedom. Okay, that's another headline. Then I still have these headlines above the header. No banking system is stable. CIBN assures Nigeria. Details read on page 5. Democracy Day, that's the kicker. Why the nation's economy is ailing. Stakeholders are coming out to speak out at this point in time. Details read on page 6. 9 Bauchi local governments risk moderate high blood this year, according to NEMA. Flood, not blood. 9 Bauchi local government risk moderate high flood this year. Coming from NEMA, details read on page 5. Democracy Day, and this one is coming from Anyaku, who says orders retreat call for new constitution. I think constitutional review to happen again. If there is anything that should be the number one thing to be revisited in our constitution, is the immunity, the level of immunity political office holders have when in office that makes them go extra mile to do things until they get out of office. Well, we'll talk more after the break. When we return, we'll bring you the big story. And the big story is about the fact that there is some form of controversy as far as the minimum wage is concerned. Who is going to benefit from this minimum wage if it's actually been accepted, and who is going to lose his or her job? And that's what we'll be talking about after the break. We will return, then go nowhere.
Follow us on our social media handles at Oweleke TV. Visit our website at www.oweleke.tv for a thrilling journey. Oweleke TV, rising star at the fairground.
Welcome back from that break. It is still Outnumbered live on your screen, and this is the time for the big story. What are we talking about? Well, it's not over until it's over. Labour still insisting on 250,000 naira as against Anthonia's proposal of 100 and above, which a lot of Nigerians would actually wanted, including those of us you're seeing on screen right now. But then, as a matter of fact, an economist that we had on our review some times ago said, well, whatever Labour is looking at right now may not be realistic, but then they are trying to have a benchmark. Can we now say dropping from the 480,000 or 450,000 to 250,000 is the benchmark that Labour is actually going to hold on to, or what the federal government is proposing? Labour said, well, far away from what was said on Democracy Day, there've not been any agreement yet. And now statistic is showing that Nigeria is among the worst salary payers in Africa. All right. This is not putting Nigeria in a good light. And federal government and state and local government must not politicize these wages, because it's all about the people and not a political thing. This is coming from Peter's side. When I actually saw this, I was like, well, this is a good one to say. And Peter's side is someone that is always saying things when he needs to say them. He doesn't talk all the time. But then, no agreement reached yet with federal government. What are we waiting for? Who is going to lose? One of the papers said some persons are going to lose their job. Mass sacking. Yeah. And now we are seeing 5.3 million workers will benefit from the new minimum wage. Yeah. So what will happen to the rest of the workers? Are they really going to be sacked? Is this what is going to be coming to workers from this administration, Antonia?
Yeah, looking at everything, at some point when the president said a new bill yesterday in his Democracy Day speech that a new bill will be coming out, and then the NLC were to meet with the federal government, Nigerians had their hopes high. But now seeing that the meeting has ended in deadlock again, and now they are warning of mass sacking, bringing out statistics of the number of persons that actually under the civil service that would benefit from this, it just raises so many eyebrows that where was this all along? Why now? So now we are clamoring for something. First of all, yes, we want the minimum wage increase, but then again, we also want the economy to be stable, because if that is stable, businesses can thrive. You understand? But now these persons that are being laid out, how about ghost workers that have been in the system ever since collecting monies? There are people that are maybe outside Nigeria. They've moved out of Nigeria and they are still receiving salaries because there is no check. So how come now we have the statistics to show that only 5.3 out of the population of Nigeria will receive the minimum wage?
So what will happen to the rest? What will happen to others? Or are they saying they are going to fresh out the ghost workers? Because some of these big men, in quote, their children are on the salary scale, okay, of the federal government, even though they are schooling abroad. Some are doing their masters. abroad, but that they serve with the federal government ministries or parastatals, they are still on the payroll. And as a matter of fact, being on the payroll when you're not working, I don't think it's contributing anything to the economy. And most times this problem comes from the big men, in quotes, the political office holders. And they are still the ones saying 5.3 million workers will benefit from the new minimum wage.
Yeah, according to the statistics that they put out, they said 76 million of Nigeria's population are workers. Do you understand? That's the total number of workers in Nigeria. And out of these, 1.5 million are federal workers, 1.3 million are state workers, and then 0.7 million are local government workers. Then 1.8 million are formal private workers. My question is, how did they derive this data?
That's just the question I wanted to ask. I was waiting for you to finish. How did they come up with this data? Because I know Nigeria is not so good with data.
5.3 million. So the addition of the federal workers, the state workers, local government workers, and former private workers, this is what gave them the 5.3 million. So would they say, okay, maybe the former private workers are those that register their business? You and I know that there are a lot of private businesses operating in Nigeria that did not register with CAC, and they are thriving. They have branches. They are doing a lot.
There are some people that are even federal government workers that still own businesses.
That still own businesses. So let's look at it
may not be realistic.
Let's not look at it from one side of the coin. Let's look at it holistically.
So let's get to Michael. Michael, 5.3 million workers, okay, to benefit from the minimum wage. Does it mean the federal government went and carried calculator and be punching it to see? Okay, 5.5. What do I say?
Carry calculator.
Yes, and punch it.
Okay, there are 5 people working here. Let's add.
Yes, let's add it. So, Michael, just talk to us in a few minutes. What would you have to say about this? Because what we are asking for is minimum wage, living wage. Nigerians want to at least
the calculations that
do well in their own country at least.
Absolutely. I think according to the National Bureau of Statistics, out of 229 million Nigerians, reportedly, that might not be the precise number, 76 to be receiving, that means public and civil servants more, because, okay, those that work with the federal government, state government, and public parastatals will benefit more. But then the thing that should have a priority, or that should take priority in the mind, is this going to better the lives or improve businesses, create an enabling environment for businesses to thrive? Because that way it will immediately address poverty alleviation, which is most citizenry are wallowing in poverty in Nigeria. That's what we know, and that's the key thing that this thing should go to. If 5.3 is going to end, what are the criterion for them to receive it? I think, for me, I believe public and civil servants are directly the ones that are affected. Federal government workers, some of them are doing well, or most of them are doing well. But public and civil servants, you see that.
There are also public and civil servants, the federal workers.
But there are those.
There are some working at federal level, different parastatals.
And those are national level, and those are state level.
No, the national is the federal. The national is the federal. There are some working in federal ministries. There are some working in state ministries. There are others working in all of them. They are public. They are public or civil.
I'm trying to get somewhere before you commission.
Okay.
I'm trying to get. There are different cadres, I know, but the federal and the state civil servants or public servant. Public servant is all government workers, but then there are those that are not getting what they are supposed to get from the state government. That is why I feel the main focus of this is not segregating or making permutations or calculations on the number. I feel everyone should get an equal amount, because it reflects on poverty alleviation, livelihood of people, business thriving. Federal government should just have that, because in the developed world, for instance, according to National Bureau of Statistics, even people that are outside the age bracket of the working population are earning from those states. In Nigeria, when you pass that age, nothing comes to you. So if you've saved out of the salary you're receiving, good for you. If you haven't saved, you go back to poverty.
All right.
So I feel federal government should just focus on making it unanimous, make both state federal workers, civil and public servants
Everything.
to take something commensurate and substantial.
I think
because poverty
that's
is too
true.
much in Nigeria. That's what we want.
Poverty is too much in Nigeria, and it's written on. If you see people on the road right now, you see it boldly
People
written
are
on their
hungry
face:
and angry.
hungry, angry, hungry,
And so
angry.
when
poverty.
Antonia started explaining about federal and states, I just want everybody to receive
Everybody,
something
beginning from the
substantial.
federal
It mustn't be
government
federal, it
to
mustn't be
the
state, it mustn't
local
be
government,
government.
everyone
Let it be
should be
unanimous. There should be no
properly paid. They should be remunerated accordingly. All right, this is going to be the size of the review and, of course, the newspaper review and, of course, the big story on Outnumbered this morning. Will come on your way again, same time, same station tomorrow. Let's see how all of this is going to end. 5.3 million workers will benefit from the minimum wage. What will happen to the rest, and how do they come up with the statistics? All of these are questions in the heart of Nigerians begging for an answer. If you ask me, who do I ask? That's just it. So very soon we'll get to know what is actually going to be the aftermath of this negotiation between NLC and the presidency. This another time to just think about things happening in Nigeria and comfort yourself, at least encourage yourself. Do what you're doing. Those of you that have skills, refine it, do something better, and contribute to the economy and your family. Bye-bye for now. My name is Ramsey. I'll see you again with my team tomorrow. Bye-bye.